Good morning and welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Phoenix. I'm Sharon Heiss, this is Bill Snowden, and we'll be leading the hymns today.
Today's service is about finding hope in anxious times, and we open with "Come Sing a Song with Me." Please rise in body or spirit.
Come sing a song with me. Come sing a song with me. Come sing a song with me, that I might know your mind. And I'll bring you hope when hope is hard to find. And I'll bring a song of love and a rose in the winter time. Come dream a dream with me. Come dream a dream with me. Come dream a dream with me, that I might know your mind. And I'll bring you hope when hope is hard to find. And I'll bring a song of love and a rose in the winter time. Come walk in rain with me. Come walk in rain with me. Come walk in rain with me, that I might know your mind. And I'll bring you hope when hope is hard to find. And I'll bring a song of rose and a rose in the winter time. Come share a rose with me. Come share a rose with me. Come share a rose with me, that I might know your mind. And I'll bring you hope, and hope is hard to find. And I'll bring a song of love and a rose in the winter time.
And please remain standing for the chalice lighting and covenant.
Good morning. I am Carrie Lifshitz. My pronouns are she, her, and I am your worship associate for today. Woo. Join me as we recite our covenant and Chris Fallon lights our chalice. If you are watching remotely and have a chalice with you, please light it with us. Love is the doctrine of this congregation. The quest for truth is our sacrament, and service is our prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge and freedom, to share our strength in fellowship, Please be seated. Good morning. It's the scared. How are you? Good to see you. Good morning. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Phoenix. No matter where you come from, how you worship, or how you identify, you are welcome here. Welcome home and welcome to worship. Welcome as we explore the mysteries of being human together in community. We are so glad you're here. I'm the Reverend Christine Dance. My pronouns are she and her, and it is a great honor to serve as your minister. The Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Phoenix strives to be a spiritual community for our time, one that is theologically diverse, radically inclusive, and justice-centered. If you are new here or here for the second or third time, or it's been a while, we're so glad you're here. Each Sunday is different, so come back. You never know what's going to happen around here. And if you would like to learn more about UUCP, there is a session called Get to Know UUCP today in room 12, which is just down the hallway after service. If you are one of those newer folks, would you be willing to stand so we can know that you are here with us? Hello and welcome. Welcome. I hope everyone will greet our new visitors. We do have a few announcements about our community today. First of all, is Glenn Stahlkop here? Glenn, can you stand up, please? Yesterday, we had the most amazing day where 3 pieces that Glenn Stahlkop wrote were performed by the most amazing Urban Nocturnes chamber group. And it was outstanding. The house was packed. The music was incredible. Glenn, you are a treasure. Congratulations. Thank you. We do have an amazing opportunity this year to dive deeper into our faith together. It's in a class called Creating Theology Together. I have often said that Unitarian Universalists are better at defining what they don't believe than articulating what they do. So this is an opportunity. Myself and my Arizona UU minister colleagues have collaborated most of last year and are creating this class to serve all UUs in Arizona. It will start in October and go through March. It will be 3 in-person sessions and then 6 online sessions. I feel confident that it will provide you more depth to your beliefs that you can explore with different ministers, UUs around the region, and an outstanding curriculum. You can find more information in Compass on the website, and I will have flyers around as well. Today after service, please come to the back of the sanctuary to help your civic engagement team add a couple sentences to letters that encourage our Arizona residents to vote. And I would like to officially welcome our new accompanist, Taylise Boissonneau, I got it. I had it perfect when I said it to you, didn't I, Taylise? Taylise is a pianist studying at ASU. She will be working with the choir and will be here several Sundays a month. Taylise is already showing herself to be adaptable, incredibly talented, and a joy to work with. She'll be sharing music with us today. Welcome, Taylise. And one more thing, our board president, Shelley Stevenson and Bunny Hodis, wanted to come up here and say something.
Good morning. I'm Bunny Hodis, one of your co-presidents of the board.
And I'm Shelley Stevenson, the other co-president. In our UUCP community, we've been blessed to have a number of long-time, multi-year employees. We believe that says a lot about who we are, our working conditions, and especially our care for our employees. When Manuel, our custodian, reached 30 years of service, we decided that we should not just acknowledge that amazing milestone, but we should also celebrate every employee every 5 years that they stay in our community, dedicating themselves to the work of our mission and values. So, starting with Manuel, the board passed a policy to recognize each person every 5 years with a certificate and a check as a token of our appreciation.
This year, we recognize our amazing minister, Reverend Christine Dance. For 5 years of service to our community. We are so thankful that you have led us through these past 5 years, and that you still look to leading us into the future. The last 5 years have been a lot. Starting your 8th month, you received a standing ovation for your first stewardship sermon to kick off our pledge drive. Then, 2 weeks later, we found ourselves shuttering our doors to deal with a worldwide pandemic. We didn't miss a service. You led our amazing team into the world of online everything. Sunday services, active programming for all ages, and pastoral care. You helped us hold our ground in making choices to protect the most vulnerable among us, reminding us what being radically inclusive really means. Your installation ceremony and celebration, scheduled later that 8th month, happened 3 years late. And what a party.
Although you say that pastoral care is the greatest honor of being a minister, you have had way more than your fair share in these past 5 years. Just to name some of it, our congregation has experienced the deaths of 41 people in 5 years. 11 of those unexpected and tragic in nature. We've also had 6 attacks from right-wing extremists. We acknowledge that this and more take a huge toll and appreciate that we, as a congregation, need to work on how to support you and each other on this particular journey.
Your preaching and Sunday services and collaborative efforts with the staff have been stellar, and we all benefit from the care and joy with which you approach this area. Finally, your skills as a facilitator, combined with your caring as a minister and your strength as a futurist, keeps us fresh and on task. With you, we look forward to living into our mission and striving to be the best UUs and UU congregation possible. You lead from love and with love.
So thank you, Reverend Christine, for an incredible first 5 years. This certificate and check are just small tokens in comparison to the love and gratitude we have for you. May we have many wonderful years to come.
This wasn't going to be a service I was going to cry at. Thank you all. I love you all so much, and what an honor and a blessing it is to get to serve you and serve with you. May it continue. So now, let us draw deeper into the present moment and into our worship. Take a deep breath, ground your body, and be here now.
Our opening words are from Whitney Hansen. I am in love with you. Yes, you. The people with fragile hearts. I think you are the bravest, most beautiful of miracles. If you cry when you read books, or if another's pain brings you heartache, if your heart cracks for the sake of bent butterfly wings, please stay that way. Do not let the weight of the world make you hard. I now invite anyone who would like to come forward for Together time.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Katie Resendez, and I'm the Director of Children's Ministry here at UUC Phoenix. Shall we jump right into a story? There once was a man who was frustrated with life. He was sick of everyone asking him favors. He was sick of feeling like he always owed people things. There was so much to do, and people were always just constantly needing things. And then on top of that, when he would do something, people would say, oh, are you sure about that? Don't you want it to be a little bit different? Don't you want it different? Be like, no, I'm my own man. I'm independent. In fact, I want to live a self-sustainable life. I think I'm going to learn to be an island, all on my own. And so he thought about it for a few days and realized that he didn't really know anyone else who did this. He would be a revolutionary, and he would be amazing. But there must be some trick to it, because how do you do it? And he asked around and asked if anyone else knew anyone who was really, truly an island, was their own man, their own self. And what he found out was there was an old man who lived in the woods up on a mountain all by himself, didn't have any electricity, didn't have any running water or sewage to the city, and that maybe he would know what it meant to be self-sustaining. So, our young man decided to trek to this man's home, and he went and he found a cabin in the woods and knocked on the door. And the old man came to the door and said, yes, how can I help you? He said, well, I want to know your secret. What does it take for me to be self-sustainable? And the old man said, well, hang on, you have to stop doing this because it's going to throw the mic right out of my hand. He said, well, come with me. I have to stack some wood. Come help me. And he started talking and stacking the wood, and asked the man his name, those kind of things. And the younger man didn't want to just stand there while someone stacked wood, so he helped too and started stacking the wood. And he said, well, tell me all about this. Tell me, how do you do all of this? What's the secret to being self-sustaining? I want to be just like you, independent. I'm an island. The old man said, okay, well, I don't know, but I do mark the calendar of the year, and I'm in touch with nature. And the young man said, oh, yeah, it must be wild. You get to watch the leaves change and feel it get colder and feel it get hotter and deal with the heat. And Christmas here must be amazing. And the old man stacked wood and said, yeah, Christmas is amazing here. My family comes. My niece, she's an amazing decorator, and she makes the whole space sparkle with lights and a Christmas tree and everything. And my sister, she bakes an amazing casserole, and Christmas here is phenomenal. The young man said, yeah, that must be amazing here on the land celebrating the holidays. Wow. And you're so strong, but I see that scar on your arm. And the old man said, yeah, last year when I was climbing up on the roof and I fell, I cut my arm bad on the way down. And I had to walk 2 miles to the neighbor's house. You walked 2 miles to the neighbor's house? You are so strong. That must have taken so much bravery. Yep. And when I got to the neighbor's house, they called 911 for me, and they came, and the paramedics fixed up my arm. I actually had to go to rehab for a little bit to learn to use the muscles again, but it's good, and I'm back. And they kept stacking wood and stacking wood, and the young man said, wow, you did all that healing on your own. That's amazing. How did you do that? And the old man kind of looked at him and said, you keep doing this. I have to go get something from the barn. And he walked out to the barn, came back with a huge bundle wrapped in cloth and put it down by the front door and said, oh, the neighborhood girl, Mary's going to come pick that up with her sister. It's the fleece from my last sheep because I can knit, but I don't know how to card wool or spin it, so I need yarn for the sweaters. You make your own sweaters? That's amazing. All the way from the sheep to the sweater, all by yourself. That's phenomenal. The old man said, yeah, let's go stack that wood over there. They kept stacking that wood and stacking that wood. And then the young man said, look at this garden, because where they were standing, there was an entire acre garden. This is amazing, and your zucchinis are ripe. This guy didn't even know that zucchinis are always ripe. The guy said, oh yeah, if you want, you can go pick some, take some home with you. Can you actually fill up this basket too? I owe one of my neighbors for when she came to help the calf that was sick. Oh yeah, of course. And the guy went and filled up the basket and filled up some to take home and said, this is amazing that you grow this all by yourself and you have your own milk from the cow. That's just phenomenal. But I don't understand how you do it. I want to be an island. I want to be self-sustaining. How do I do it? He was like, and the old man looked at him and said, well, you start by stacking my wood. Thank you. You can go sit down.
Each week, we split our offering between this congregation and an organization that shares our values. For September, our Share the Plate partner is Booker T. Washington Child Development Center. Their mission is to nurture young children through quality preschool programs, to inspire children to use creativity, and to discover freely the world around them. They were founded to provide education to children of low-income families and have expanded to offer quality preschool. They have continued to grow with the help of donors and the volunteers that make their mission possible. Through all these years, their purpose still remains the same: bring quality services to children and families. For all that you give, we are so grateful. Ushers, thank you for your willing hands in helping us pass the plate.
It is an important practice in this community to take time to share pieces of our lives with one another. Sharing them together, we can amplify our joys and lessen our burdens. If you are on Zoom this morning and would like to share what is in your heart today, please feel free to put something in the chat. If you're in the sanctuary today, there is a table in the back where you can write your joys and sorrows. As we open this sacred time to share in community, let us open our hearts to what is shared and what stays in our hearts with a moment of stillness. I have some great joys today. So one is from Jez, and the other one is from Jira around the same thing. I'm going to start with Jira's. Jira says, "It was my birthday yesterday and I had fun." And Jez says, "My daughter Jira's birthday was yesterday. She is now 11. She was also able to skip a grade in school due to last year's hard work." Congratulations, Jira, and happy birthday. And then from Len in our sound booth to Katie, who is right there. And Len says, "Wishing a happy birthday this week to Katie Resendez. Love you, babe." In our anxious times, it is good to take some time and connect with our body and spirit, to stop and be in the here and now and dig deeper into ourselves. Let us soften into a spirit of meditation and prayer with words adapted from Reverend Dana Edwards. Spirit of life and of love, times are tough and trepidation swirls in our hearts. Groceries are expensive and our paychecks do not go as far as they used to. Incendiary words drip off the lips of our politicians and sow division in our nation. People we love are lost to hateful rhetoric and dubious conspiracy theories. And still, there is hope. Through the generations, our democracy has been threatened, questioned, and buffeted. Our government has not always lived up to its ideal of freedom for all. We are grateful for all of those organizers, journalists, freedom fighters, clergy, and regular people who knew that the people of our nation are called to do better and be better. Those like Grace Lee Boggs, Fannie Lou Hamer, Ida B. Wells, Dolores Huerta, and Harriet Tubman, and so many others that knew that freedom isn't free, who saw deep and intricate connections of the human web, who cared enough to show up and keep showing up, who loved the people of this nation to keep fighting for who we could be. They gave us hope. Our faith also gives us hope, a faith that knows that transformation is a holy and sacred task, that affirms that community is sacred, that helps us through complicated and painful times, and that brings a generous heart and a lens of justice and liberation to all we do. Our love gives us hope. A revolutionary love that challenges us to find the worthiness and dignity in those with whom we disagree. Love that inspires us to amplify the voices that are so often silenced. A love that holds us when our hearts are breaking. A love so big it bears the heavy weight of all that is on our shoulders. Spirit of love, may love and hope and wisdom guide us as we courageously make our way in the world. May it be so. Amen, and blessed be.
So you may remain in your seats as we sing the next hymn. Meditation and breathing has 3 parts. We'll sing each one of them with you, and then you'll be free to sing whichever part you choose. When we're all done, we'll end together with the first part.
Take a break. I have to consistently remind myself to do this. During the last election, I had recently joined Twitter, and I fell into the trap. What does this random person think about this idea? Ooh, this random person made this good point. I need to follow them. I became glued to my phone reading more and more articles about what could happen, or doom scrolling. I finally made myself so anxious that I had to take a break from Twitter, and I felt better. When the pandemic started in the early 2020, I became obsessed with the weekly numbers of infections. I would pore over the data and analyze where the infections were worst, and I would worry about whether or not school should be in person. Finally, I made myself so anxious that I had to take a break from my data mission, and I felt better. When this school year started and I began teaching different classes in a different format, I became so focused on trying to make each class a perfect class, one where every student would totally understand everything I said and would be riveted to my every word. A girl can dream, right? I finally had to learn that my original idea is usually a good one, and I just need to move on and take a break from planning and revising. Is taking a break easy? No. I feel constant guilt about walking away. I should be working. I should be actively engaged in my community elections. But sometimes I just need a break. And I've had to learn that that's okay. It's okay to walk away from a conversation that is making me anxious. It's okay to step away from preparing for classes. It's okay. Take a break.
lived in Florida for 20 years, and I kind of miss hurricanes. Okay, well, not the fact that they always seemed to come in the middle of the night and they sounded like a freight train in the dark. And not that we had to move every piece of outside furniture into our living room. And not that we lost electricity for usually 10 days because our area was one of the last to be restored. Or I guess not really that it was always hot and sticky. And definitely not that each year got a little worse. Maybe not those parts. But hurricanes brought out the best in every neighborhood I ever lived in Florida. I remember that everyone knew I wasn't afraid of heights and was pretty good with roofing nails, a skill I learned living in Florida through hurricane seasons. So I was appointed the roof tarper. I loved that we'd figure out who had the biggest fridge and we'd all take our meat over there and find who had a generator and plug it in. Or if we had things that were ready to spoil, we'd have a big neighborhood grill fest to get rid of the food. Or that everyone checked on neighbor Jay because we knew that he was taking care of his wife with dementia. And if someone needed something, someone ran to find theirs. I miss that part. I live in a neighborhood where I hardly know my neighbors, and I attribute that greatly to the lack of hurricanes here. It didn't matter who we loved, what race we were, or who we were voting for. Yes, hurricane season was usually in September or October when we were in the heat of election season, and Florida was a swing state then. I remember because I recall bringing in our election signs and having them against the wall in the living room with all of our patio furniture. We're in an election season now, and the anxiety is high. Anyone feeling it? And just me? No, it just must be me. No, I can tell. I can tell that your anxiety is high because it's the first thing many of you are talking about when we meet as teams or small groups. I can tell that you're following closely because you often tell me whatever the news of the day is that day if I hadn't heard it yet. And I know that many of you feel passionately about your position. And I want to name clearly that we are not all on the same mind of this election. Our mission says that we are theologically diverse and we are politically diverse as well. A UU saying is that we don't all have to think alike to love alike. While we are unapologetically progressive in our theology and our social issues, there is still a spectrum of political views. Some of you want financial policies that are more conservative. Some of you are way left of Vice President Harris and are disappointed in her positions on fracking or the massive death toll in Gaza. Some of you are ecstatic about her positions, or at least the momentum that she has, especially this week. But please don't forget we are a spectrum. Like the Spiritual Nourishment mini-series we ran in August, we're having a Hope in Anxious Times mini-series from now through the Sunday after Election Day. I'm not planning for that one until that week. Together, we will explore concepts of faith that will help ground us. We know that elections affect many issues that give us anxiety, from climate change to reproductive justice to LGBTQ equity, gun violence, and so many more. But we are also carrying our own personal anxieties about our jobs, our families, our mental health, our physical health, and our rights. We are carrying so much, and sometimes it feels like the anxiety could just sweep us away and carry us downstream, like a hurricane, perhaps. When I thought of this series, I knew that we needed it, but once I came to writing it, I wasn't quite sure where I was going to find this hope thing. And there is not one answer. There are just different ways to think about it while we are also holding all of these anxieties together. For today's sermon, I am turning to the prophetic voice of Rebecca Solnit. Anyone know Rebecca Solnit's work? Rebecca is an American writer, historian, and activist. She is the author of 20 books on feminism, Western and Indigenous history, popular power, social change, and hope. Last spring, someone recommended her book, A Paradise Built in Hell, The Extraordinary Communities That Arise in Disaster, as we were going through our own community crisis. And I cannot get her concepts and her research and her messages out of my mind, because they take me right back to how we took care of each other and bonded in hurricane times. In story after story, from the 1906 San Francisco earthquake and fires to the 1985 Mexico City earthquake to 9/11 in New York City to Hurricane Katrina in New Orleans, she researched how humans responded to disasters. And time again, she found that the boundaries between people disappeared, and people did what they could to help their fellow humans without thought to personal cost. It brought out some of the very best in humanity. In these disasters, the structures that upheld a tiered structure in normal times fell apart. In disasters, the structures are too slow, the red tape is too abundant, and the systems for normal times aren't flexible enough to adapt to dramatic change. The bureaucratic framework is one of the worst things to have in disasters, Solnit says. They can't maneuver, they can't integrate, and they are inflexible. So out of the lack of that structure, we are forced to turn to our human proclivities. In her research, she found over and over that the prevalent human nature in disaster is resilient, resourceful, generous, empathic, and brave. Solnit reminds us that the word emergency comes from emerge, or to rise out of. An emergency is a separation from the familiar, a sudden emergence into a new atmosphere, one that often demands that we rise to the occasion. Catastrophe comes from the Greek kata, or down, and stryphin, or turning over. It means an upset of what is expected, and it was originally meant to mean a plot twist. The word disaster comes from the Latin compound of dis, or away, without, and astro, which is star or planet, literally without a star. So in the plot twists of life, where we emerge into something new, we find what Solnit says, the constellations of solidarity, altruism, and improvisation. In all of these stories, there are remarkable tales of people exhibiting these traits in a way that Solnit boldly calls utopian. Utopia in a disaster? Now, she's not saying that the consequences of the disaster are not terrible, but the way that people band together has all of the characteristics of what people are looking for in a utopia society. The two most basic goals of social utopias are to eliminate deprivation, hunger, ignorance, and homelessness, and to forge a society in which no one is an outsider, no one is alienated. She found those utopias in disaster. In all of these examples, those who had resources shared with those who did not. Those who had food fed people. Those who had skills used them. Those who had shelter offered it. It's tempting to ask why, if they did this during disasters, why didn't they do it before or after? One reason is that they were not focused on long-term plans. Giving away thousands of pounds of food is, of course, not profitable in a capitalistic society. The other reason is that these disasters made people proximate to each other. It was more difficult to not ease suffering when it was right in front of you, no matter what the divisions were between you. And since the normal systems were suspended and rendered almost useless, so all the people adapted and rose to the occasion. Disasters force us to live in the now, right now, on the immediate moment-to-moment, day-to-day needs within the present reality, not the past or the future. Solnit made some fascinating comments around faith communities and how we respond, thinking about this model. She says that, quote, most religions turn their adherents toward the things we are afraid to face: mortality, death, illness, loss, uncertainty, suffering, to the ways that life is always something of a disaster. It's one of the few places we can do that. Thus, religion can be regarded as disaster preparedness, equipment not only to survive, but to do so with equanimity and to respond with calmness and altruism to the tragedies of everyday life. Many religions' practices also emphasize the importance of recognizing the connectedness of all things and the deep ties that we have, from the congregation to all beings everywhere. In so doing, our communities inculcate as everyday practice the mutual aid and altruism that disaster sometimes delivers. End quote. So I would contend that we are in a slow disaster right now. That the social structures that were set up to protect and help are not working. They are giving the powerful more power and making it harder and harder for the poor to get their basic needs met. The order from the forces like police and military benefit those with power and disproportionately oppress those without it. And the more that the people call that out, the more they want to impose order over us. I think that this is one aspect of what we're seeing with the pull of leaders from Trump to Hungary's Orban to Russia's Putin, and the rise of authoritarian candidates around the world, not just here. We're seeing it in climate change. Our structures can't even agree that it exists, much less be flexible enough to adjust to it. And let's admit it, it is the hierarchy of corporations and the power of the rich that are continuing to push reliance on fossil fuels that are slowly killing us. The structure is not working. Our hope, I believe, is not in our structures. Instead, the power has always been in our hands. Yes, I'm not saying things can't get worse if our elections give us leaders who are not working for our people. But so much of our government isn't working for the people anyways. And even if the elections turn out exactly as you personally want them to, the structures still may not be able to deliver what we need. We are in an emergency in that we are emerging into a new world. In the catastrophes of climate change and racism and poverty and bigotry, we are planning for a plot change. And in the disasters around us, we are turning to our community stars. This UUCP community has seen more than its fair share of emergencies and crises, as Shelley and Bunny mentioned, from the pandemic to the number of deaths we've experienced, to the trauma of misconduct, to the attacks of those who wish to harass us for our views, which, by the way, in every single case of all of those, we have turned to each other. In the instances of the right-wing harassments that we had, the systems of police and law have not helped us one single time, even though we've gone through all of the appropriate motions. But we have learned how to take care of ourselves. We have flocked together to empower ourselves to take care of each other. We have taken the power into our own hands. Yes, the election is important, but it is not everything. We must do what we believe and what we're capable of to change our structures, but this election won't come close to fixing all of our systemic problems. While we work on the system, and we must also work on what is closer to home and that which we have more control over, our care for our people in the circles around us. We can't outsource all of this work to some outside government. We can create the society we want right here. And I don't believe this is an optional exercise. We need to learn mutual aid, interdependence, flexibility, how to lift our fellow humans to survive the individual and collective disasters, our own hurricanes, if you will, that we may encounter in our lives. We are in an emergency in that we are emerging into a new world. In the catastrophes, we are planning for a plot change. And in the disasters, we are turning to new constellations of community and care and interdependence. We as humans are built for this. We have the power in our own hands to build our own utopia. We must, and I believe that we will. So might it be.
Amen. Our closing hymn is I Am Willing by Holly Near. Please rise in body or spirit and sing with us. In So lift me up to the light of change. May the children see more clearly, and may the elders be more wise. May the winds of change caress us, even though they burn our eyes. But I am open and I am willing, for to be hopeless would seem so strange. It dishonors those who go before us. So lift me up in light of change.
It honors the rebels
And give me a desert to hold my face. Give me a sunset to hold my wonder. And give me an ocean to hold my fears. But I am open and I am willing, for to be helpless would seem so strange. It dishonors those who go before us. So lift me up to the light of change. Please remain standing for the closing.
As we close our service, we remind you to reach out to all of our newcomers or folks you haven't seen for a while. Our exploration hours for youth and adults start at noon and will be listed on the screen following the service. Please enjoy our minimal but still enthusiastic coffee hour, which is in the Johnson Room across the patio. Letter writing back there, and Get to Know UUCP is down the hall in room 12. In the emergencies of life, may we emerge changed and more connected. In the plot twists of our world, may we look for the creative, adaptive, and generous ways to respond. And as we look to the stars to guide our way during anxious times, may we remember that our greatest powers are not outside of us in our systems, but inside ourselves and how we care for one another. Go in peace, go in love.